Hey everyone, it is midnight motivation time and it is midnight connection again. I'm very excited to have another guest on. You guys going to think, gosh, Kristen, how many coaches can you have on? But you know what? There is all different kinds. There's personal trainers, there's businesses. Everyone has their own perspective. I'm into podcasts. I'm just into getting as much knowledge as I can and pearls of wisdom because everyone has their own perspective. So I am very excited to introduce Evan Mestman. So let me get him in here. Hi, Evan.
Hey, how are you doing? It's great to see you.
Yes, you too. I've been also doing tons of networking, and that's how we met. I just think when you go on this personal growth journey, it's just amazing. And you're gonna, I'm sure, talk about, but like how personal and business all overlaps, and then you just meet like amazing people and amazing opportunities come into your life. And one of them was me crossing paths with you.
Oh, thank you. I'm really grateful for you having me on the podcast tonight.
Well, you are a health and wellness and mindset coach. Um, Want to just a little bit of your background, or why do you do what you do?
Well, the reason why I do what I do is because I was my first client. I really have a passion for this because I suffered with being overweight. My nickname when I was a kid was Heavy Heavy.
Oh.
So I got bullied and I just didn't like what was happening. My whole life was really revolving around my identity as a overweight kid. And I was looking at some old pictures of my sixth grade um, yearbook, and there's a picture of me. You see those pictures, right? It's never easy, but there's a little note from somebody that always was the one that always picked on me, but he even said, "Go on a diet." That was when he wrote my yearbook. And I never saw that until I looked at it recently. I don't remember seeing that. So just like, whoa, like I guess I had to lose weight. But the issue really was that I had to look in the mirror and I had to decide, am I going to do something different? Or am I going to keep doing the same thing that I was doing over and over again? Overeating, eating compulsively, not listening to my internal cues, and not really exercising, not having any intention. So I learned really the hard way because diets don't work. And I realized, you know what? I'm going to start just making small, tiny changes every day.
Mm.
And those little tiny changes kind of snowballed. And over the summer, I ended up losing a lot of weight. And I went back to school and nobody recognized me. It was a really great thing. And it was in a good way.
Mm.
But I went to school after that. I went pre-med, didn't want to be a doctor, and decided, you know what? I really want to understand why it is that I was able to change and other people aren't. Like I really wanted to get into the mindset piece, but I didn't want to be a psychologist and I didn't want to be a doctor. So I took a course in nutrition in my senior year of college. It was just, wasn't even for credit. I was like, oh my gosh, just puts it all together. It puts the psychology, it puts the pathophysiology, it puts the biochemistry, it just puts it all together. And then of course, nutrition. And I loved what I did learning wellness as well as illness, but also there's a difference between critical illness and chronic illness. But there was a real big disconnect between wellness and what I learned in school. So I went to school, and while I was doing that, I was also an assistant manager in a health club, and I was a personal trainer. I lived it, right? I had gone through the change transformation and I lived it. And I still to this day have been on this search to try to understand what helps people change for good. And what I found is over the course of the last 25 plus years is that you need to lose weight with your mind, not your mouth. And that's really what I do. And I do it through people changing the way they think, the way they eat, and the way they live so they can live with the life they've always dreamed of and live with a lot more energy and joy.
Well, just to share a little bit of my story, and you were giving me flashbacks or a thought, but what's amazing, so at my heaviest, I've lost over the years and just recently a total like 120 pounds, and I'm still losing. But what I remember, your high school story is reminding me, I'm getting back to my high school weight, my high school clothes, But when I was in high school, when, like after you have babies and you're older, it's no more normal to be size 13, 14, 16, 18, 20, whatever. But in high school, everyone's a rail and like everyone's size 3 and 4. And this is more, I guess, from a woman's perspective. But anyway, so when you're size 13, 14, 16, you're obese. So like right now, I'm getting back to that and I feel skinny. But in high school, I was on 3 swim teams. I was active, but compared to my peers, I felt like a whale. I felt huge, and now I'm like getting back to my high school size and I feel skinny and I feel beautiful and everything. So it is the mindset,
That's
and
a
it,
wonderful reframe. And
yeah,
that's what I like to do with people, because the things that happen to you as a child and an adolescent and a teenager, those things can be traumatic. Living through that and those traumas change you.
yeah, I
And
matured at a very young age, basically starting having my period early. So I got curves early and
mhm,
I skipped the junior section. I went straight to misses. So when you're
mhm,
a teenager, that's no fun. You
mhm,
just want to wear the junior clothes and everything.
mhm.
And yeah, it was not good at all.
Well, it also, you mentioned something interesting. It's like you said, you didn't like the way other people, like it's how you were comparing yourself to others. But
Right.
now you have an identity that you're now comparing yourself to when you were younger, but you're comparing yourself to
Right.
yourself, your
Yeah.
younger self. And that is a healthy thing to do, having that identity that is internal,
Right.
right? That you're basing it on an internal set of values versus what other people think. And
Right.
it's really hard though for people. And part of what I try to do is to help people first become more aware.
Right.
It's all about self-awareness and self-acceptance. And that self-acceptance is not an easy thing to do, but there's a process to it.
Yeah.
And otherwise you're always going to be on a diet. And
Yeah.
diets don't work because
Yeah.
you're always on or off of them.
Yeah, it's definitely a lifestyle change. Um, so what is ProAttitudes? Because we haven't even mentioned that word, and ProAttitudes coaching, and we're talking about diets, but what is
Yes.
ProAttitudes?
Well, my business, when I first started the business, it was appetite and attitudes, but nobody can spell that on the internet. So I took appetite away and I made it, well, what am I going to call it? I can't call it attitudes, pro attitudes, because it's all about being pro, which I look at as positive.
Hmm.
So promoting a positive attitude, focusing on my 3 pillars in coaching are nutrition, it is attitude, and then it's also total fitness, body, mind, soul. And pro attitude encompasses all of those pillars, as well as you need to know what to do, you need to know how to do it, and you have to have the why to do it. Where those 3 intersect, which is your behaviors, your techniques, and your attitude, where those 3 intersect is success.
That
And
is so
and
that's so true.
and it's also habits. When
Right.
there's those 3 intersect are habits, which is what my business is based on. Pro Attitudes Coaching, I help people change. You need to change the neural pathways in your brain. So
Right.
rather than try to just go on a diet, what you need to do is reprogram the brain on how you do things, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, which is going to lead to how you act. And that will determine what your habits are, which is going to determine really your outcomes, whether you're going to be overweight or whether you're going to be thin and fit.
Right. The my last guest, is a guy named about the unicorn. But anyway, he has a TED talk on walking. But I'm very big into walking. But it's like it's just amazing how I get all caught up with my business, and I just think, well, if I get up earlier and I skip the walk or I skip the exercise, like I'm going to be more successful, And it doesn't work that way. Like you always, well, I don't know, but I have a problem of putting myself on the back burner, thinking I'm doing the right thing by not doing the self care as a simple thing as walking, But the fact that it overlaps, like your personal health overlaps into the success of your business. And I always do much better when I change my mindset and I'm like, no, I'm a morning person, so I walk in the morning. Fit your walk in, get your walk in, and you're going to have a great and fabulous day. And all the stuff that you're worried about that you think isn't going to get done, it's going to get done when it needs to get done. But I struggle with, you know, putting that priority on me and having the wrong mindset of thinking, oh, I need to do this, this, and this. So I guess that leads me to the next question. What are the kind of issues that your clients have that when they, or struggles when they come to you?
So you mentioned something pretty powerful there. You're talking really about your inner critic is telling you you should just skip the walk and get to work so you'd be more successful. And the inner critic is, there are many of them that live in our heads, but that inner dialogue is not you. That inner dialogue might be telling you something, but it's typically a lie, especially if it's negative. You either have your inner critic or you have your inner coach, which is why he's sitting up there. He's my
Yoda?
inner coach. But this is my inner critic.
We should have done it on May 4th.
But for you, you said you have this inner critic that puts everybody else first.
Right.
So I'll use an analogy for you. A lot of people use the putting the air mask on,
Right.
but think about your body and think about, they're in nature. Mother Nature gives us really wonderful clues as to basic principles that we shouldn't break. Gravity is something that we should not break because gravity doesn't care whether you exist or not. But if you want to get to your car fast and you're on the 9th floor, you shouldn't jump out the window. You'll get there fast, but you're going to go splat.
Right.
You have the elevator or the stairs. You can choose between the two. Better to take the stairs because then you earn it, you own it. But likewise, if you're focused on eating and pleasing others, think about your heart. Your heart pumps blood to every part of its body. What do you think it considers the most important part of the body? What does it pump blood to first?
Your brain? Are we talking about mindset?
It's a trick question.
Okay, I thought so. I was like, I'm going to get this wrong.
Well, it's not right or wrong. It's just have you reframe it. So if the heart doesn't pump blood to itself,
okay,
you get a heart attack. The
right.
LAD, which is considered the widowmaker, the coronary artery, the left anterior coronary artery, is the first artery off of the aorta, and it feeds the heart. It is the main source of fuel for the heart. When that one gets blocked, you typically have a heart attack. But it's called the widowmaker for a reason, because 660,000 people die from heart disease every year in the United States. Do you know what the number one symptom is for half of those people?
What?
Sudden death. They don't get a second chance.
Right.
So if you think about, the heart has to pump blood to every part of the body, but it has to take care of itself first. It makes more sense to say, when that happens, when you say, well, I really need to skip this because I have work to do, you're listening to a lie. So self-care needs to come first because the body does the same thing.
Right.
The heart specifically. So those are things that I like to teach people, because the only real way to change the mindset sometimes is a paradigm shift. Other times, if it's not a shift, it's a major shift. It's small, tiny changes. And I use both approaches to help people make change happen. And it has to feel good. When you change your mindset and you realize, oh, I'm not hurting myself, or I'm not hurting my business, I'm actually helping my business by going for that walk, it's going to feel good.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, we only have a short period of time and you're already giving so many pearls of wisdom and everything. So I can already guess the answer to one of these things. What kind of results does your client see? So they're not having heart attacks and they're not having sudden death, which is good. It's one of the main reasons I did all of my personal changes. When I was at my heaviest, and my son's 16, but he was a toddler, I just noticed I was asking him to pick up stuff. I was getting winded doing the steps. And I'm like, I couldn't, I had the fear of dying and not being there, which is the greatest fear, but just even being present. I'm a very active person, and I just was getting lazy because of all the weight on me. But anyway, what kind of results do your clients see?
Well, I want to share with you some of the clients that I've had. I have one client who came to me because she wanted to fit in a dress for her daughter's wedding. She didn't tell me, though, that she had uncontrolled diabetes. I happen to be a diabetes educator also. So her blood sugars were in the 400s. The A1C was 14.1. That is really close to being in the hospital. It was so uncontrolled. Well, now her A1C is below 6, and her weight, she's also lost over 58 pounds. And she's now she fit in the dress. She looked great. And now, because she's broken that ceiling and she's starting to see herself as a business owner who is healthy versus somebody who's controlling diabetes, she wants to lose another 50 pounds and fit in the second dress for her second daughter's wedding.
Oh, that's really nice. That's a
Yeah.
very nice story. What are the biggest challenges that you help solve for your clients?
What I find is the biggest challenge is the limiting self-beliefs.
Mm.
I think that if I can just focus on mindset, but I do so much more than that, it would be enough, because the biggest challenge is what they tell themselves. There are, like we were talking about, the inner critic. The inner critic it's designed to keep you safe. We create this inner critic in this identity in ourselves to protect us from change. So I really like helping people with understanding who their inner critic are, who they are. There's more than one. There's one main inner critic. It's the faceless judge. And then there are 9 accomplices that I work with. And those accomplices they'll give you an understanding when you go through them. And in my Facebook group, I have a guide on understanding who those inner critics are, so you can identify them. And then also then the whole idea is, how do we silence that inner critic? And how do we develop your inner coach? And that's my favorite part, that part. But besides doing that, when we do that, then we can start helping people from getting on and off a program. So it's not about being on a diet. I don't do diets. I don't put people on diets. A lot of trainers will do this. Other nutritionists will do this. And that's fine. There are a lot of roads that lead to Rome. But to me, there are basic principles that exist. And if you're not losing weight, the law of thermodynamics still applies. Calories in, calories out. So we need to eat less calories, which is easier to do, to burn 500 calories in exercise or to eat 500 calories less. And I will tell you, every time I will choose the eating less, because burning 500 calories is a lot of work. People go by their watches or they go by the machines. Those things don't work. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work to burn those calories. So it's a lot easier to eat less calories. So I focus on teaching them basic principles about not dieting, but how do you have a new relationship with food? How do you eat intentionally? And then lastly, it's about fitness, but total fitness, body, mind, soul. How do you find a way to become more active in your life instead of focusing on exercise? I had one client this morning who has issues with her heart, and we were focusing on looking at little tiny pieces of time that she does every day to add it up and go, well, here's your walk. It takes 5 minutes to go to the post office from within her condo. It takes 5 minutes to go to the pool. It takes 5 minutes to go there. And before you knew it, she had 20 minutes. And then she's like, okay, I can start measuring, because you can't improve something if you can't measure it.
Right.
And then we can increase it gradually. And then, because in her mind, it was like, I needed to walk to the end of the condo complex and back, and it's 91 degrees. She's got a heart problem, and she didn't think she could do it. Well, take a wall of something that's like insurmountable and break it down into tiny little steps. That's my superpower. That's what I help people do.
Right.
And then they feel good. When you make a commitment and keep it, how do you feel?
Well, that's why I asked the question, because I think that's why coaches are so important, because it's not an easy job, because I think the saying is we are our own worst enemy. And, like I feel like I'm stubborn, but I feel like everyone's stubborn. And I like having a coach in my life to hold myself accountable. Like if I have someone to check in, when I was working with my personal trainer, he started me out with just 6 minutes. Oh my gosh, 6 minutes was so hard.
Hmm.
And it wasn't much. And then, but the more you do it, and then it was just that checking in and more, because I mean, I can pull the same stuff up on YouTube and everything, but
Hmm.
it's that accountability and everything, and that you have with a person. So I do think it's very important to have coaches, because you hear the same stuff everywhere, but you got to have that personal connection and someone holding you accountable to it.
And that's why I created my commitment log, because I know from the very beginning, I started this over 25 years ago, where I started having people make a commitment. And when I say commitment, commitment has to be greater than a compulsion. The only way a commitment can be greater than the compulsion is that your why is greater than the short-term gain. So you say you want to eat something. Let's say it's ice cream. You give in, right? Oh, I wanted ice cream. I ate ice cream for a reason. There's a cue. I don't know what triggered you, but you either thought of it, you saw it on TV, or it's after dinner and you walked by the freezer and you said, "Oh, there's ice cream in there." That cue leads to craving. But there is no craving if there's no real why. If you have a why connected to, I am a healthy business owner. Like I deal with business owners, but I deal with everybody, but most of my target market's business owners.
Hmm.
Then that commitment can become greater than the compulsion to eat the ice cream. If you don't have that commitment, then you're going to give in to the short term immediate gratification. And then how are you going to feel afterwards?
Right.
You're going to feel lousy. So, commitment log, what I end up doing is I teach people how to give me 3 things that you know that you can do this week based on everything we talk about in a session, that they can give me 100% commitment, but 100% integrity that they know they can do. That's
Hmm.
going to take them 3 steps closer to where they want to be.
Right.
And that's it. And then we focus on what are the roadblocks? What are the challenges? Where do you need to ask support and cooperation? How can you look at this as making a deposit in your health account? We go to work, we make deposits in our bank account all the time, and we
Right.
look forward to the dividends, because what does the money give us? It gives us freedom to do everything we want to do. Well, it's the same thing with making health deposits. It makes your commitments greater than your compulsions.
That's wonderful. Um, One of the things that I really liked before I even found out what you really did and all this coaching and diet stuff, I loved, I'm in social media, and I love all of your gratitude stuff. We haven't talked about that. And in my personal journey, I've learned a lot about gratitude. Reason it's midnight motivation is I like having testimonial Tuesdays and makeover Mondays, but I also like having motivational Mondays. So on Mondays, I try to post something motivational, whether it's a quote or my own, before I've ever even met you. So I like other people that do the same thing. And but you've taken, I just do motivate anything motivational quote, but you have really taken this gratitude thing to another level. And I totally believe in it. So I would like you to share a little bit about that, because I am a huge believer. Um, all of this, a lot of people say this stuff is like woo woo, oh, it's woo woo. And
Not really.
life, right. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm being devil's
No,
advocate
I
here.
know. I know. When they don't understand it, that's what they say.
Yeah. And, but life is really, really hard. And it is true. And that's why I believe in this too, of changing your mindset. You can either, saying glass half full, half empty, but it's like you're not born into this. You have to train yourself and everything. And one of the hugest things to me is appreciating the small blessings. And so, like, when you're having a hard day, and I also like, because I've learned that everything negative, there's a gift in it, and you sometimes don't see it right away. But all of this comes back to the gratitude, believing and finding the small blessings in something. So, I, the way I've changed my mindset is and I'm sure like a lot of people have heard, is like write down your gratitudes and everything. So, I want to hear your perspective, because I know you are a huge advocate. This is like a huge thing that you do, is the gratitude. And I'm a strong believer of holding on to your small blessings to get to change your mindset and to make the difficult times not difficult?
So I'll start with this. I heard a song, and the song had a lyrics that way I heard it was become, be strong, be grateful. I heard the lyrics wrong, but those lyrics spoke to me. And I said that it was when I was building this program, I said, that's my program. The become is the transformation, right? You have to let go of who you are now to become who you want to be. The be strong is the growth mindset, being resilient, being able to say to yourself, yes, I'm not there yet, but I'm one step closer, and working through that with commitment and resilience and perseverance. But the game changer is be grateful. Why? Because most people are suffering today because of anxiety and mindset. The reason, we're ever since the last 3 years, it's been going on a lot longer than that, but the last 3 years have really created a quantum leap forward where people are constantly worried about the future and they're regretful of things that they've done in the past. And the wonderful thing about gratitude is that it brings you back to the precious present. And it lets you know that you have enough because that's what it's saying to you. Now, think about this. When you have a thought is literally an electrical impulse where it's connecting neurons. And the neurons that fire together wire together. Now, with that electrical impulse, when you have an electrical impulse, you create a magnetic field around it. That magnetic field, a magnet can either attract or repulse. So the thought creates an electrical impulse that also has a feeling associated with it. We need to change where that thought came from, which is your belief system. Gratitude does that because it gets you out of the future and it gets you out of the past and it keeps you in the precious present. You're creating a new neural pathway, which is going to have a new electrical impulse and a new a magnetic field around it, which is going to give you a whole new feeling associated with it. And by doing this, that changes the way you act. You cannot just change your behaviors. I'll give you a really great, simple example. Let's say you're walking down the street and you're in a really bad neighborhood. Dangerous, right? You're in the inner city. The lights are out on the street. It's dark. You're a woman walking down the street and you see somebody walking towards you in a dark pea coat, very large person. You can't really see them well. First of all, how does it make you feel just walking down the street in a city with the lights out?
Uneasy.
Okay. So now you see a person walking towards you. How does that make you feel?
Very uneasy.
Now the person comes walking towards you. I want you to just change your behavior. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm whispering in your ear. I'm just gonna say, don't worry about it. This person's safe. Just keep walking. So you have to trust me. But what is your internal dialogue saying to you about that person walking towards you?
Just escape plans. Like, what if this happened? What
And
what
right.
what should I do?
And you want to go to the other side of the street.
Right.
Like, let me go. Can I just get to that side? No, stay put. Trust me. Now you see he has a dog and it looks like a pit bull, right? So getting even more nervous. He comes close enough to you now and you see, I know this might be a little controversial now, but just go with it, right? He has a little square in his collar. It's a priest.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel now?
Right. Well,
You completely
really,
shifted, right? You shift your paradigm. You actually want to stay on this side, right? Because most people wouldn't hopefully attack a priest. It would be, if there was anybody coming and wanting to rob you, whatever. So the bottom line here is we need information sometimes to shift our belief systems. And sometimes it comes by not just listening to the coach, because I'm the navigator, I'm not the driver. It's by truly experiencing a shift in how you think and how you feel by shifting that belief system. And that can happen. That belief, it doesn't happen always. I don't just coach for that. But the way that we coach for that is we work on tiny little habits slowly. We work on gratitude. And what we do is we work on by asking questions, we can reframe and change your mindset. Just like, talking about the heart, that's a mindset shift for people. Oh, I never thought of it that way. So that's gratitude is something that I think is so powerful, but people will be grateful by saying it. That's great. But how do we take it to a higher level? I have an attitude. Gratitude. I have an attitude muscle, but I have a gratitude muscle too. So I want people to express their gratitude.
Mhm.
But how do you do it in a nonverbal way? And
Okay.
how can you pay it forward? There are people out there, if you could pay it forward, like doing something selfless for somebody, all of these kind of activities gets you to get those neurons to wire together, and then they start firing together, and you create that new neural pathway. And that's really the goal.
Well, this is why I say I love getting, you having multiple coaches for different perspectives. Because honestly, I hear a lot of, I've never heard that perspective on gratitude. And what I really like is from what I'm hearing, and I get influenced like this. Like one of my clients did, I learned so much about hormones and how holistic can really change. But anyway, she preached the science behind it. And like what you're preaching really would make me make changes, because what I'm like, I want, tell me more, is I'm hearing the science behind it. I'm not
Mhm.
just hearing what I hear a lot is have a gratitude journal and like every day write down what you're grateful for and make sure you don't repeat. But like I've never heard it the way you just said it, which I think is of tremendous value. And
Okay.
that's another thing that you get from having a coach,
Mhm.
like a different perspective. And like like you said, you're the navigator. You can't change my life, but you're going to hold me accountable. And then you're going to teach me the science behind, you know, someone just tells you, if anyone tells me what to do, I will do the exact opposite. I won't react very well. But I love learning, which is why I love having, doing midnight connections and meeting so many interesting people, because I've never heard that's just an amazing answer to gratitude. And you've said a lot of scientifical stuff, but
Mhm.
that makes me say, this is not woo woo.
Mhm.
This
Oh, no,
is,
no, no. There's a lot of research to support
yes.
the power of gratitude, but also I do a presentation called, and I do for corporate wellness. It's called The Habits of a Happy and Productive Brain. The whole purpose is, how do you work with your brain versus against it? So
Mhm.
there are ways, and I've worked it into my program. I call it like hacking your brain, but it's more than that. It's changing those neural pathways, but teaching you how to do it so that you get dopamine doses, that you get the brain chemicals. You have dopamine, you have norepinephrine, epinephrine, acetylcholine, and you have oxytocin, amongst many others. And then there's cortisol, which is a stress hormone. There are ways to stop the stress response, that fight or flight response, physiologically. So even if you know in your brain, oh my gosh, I know I need to calm down, you can't, because you can't do it with your head. So what we do it with is breath. I do breath work with my clients because breathing, and specific types of breathing, is something simple that anybody can do. And it actually stops the stress response, because you're telling through those nerves, and there's a large conduit of nerves called the vagus nerve, which thousands of nerves, that works in conjunction. Everybody thinks it's the brain. It's much more than the brain. The brain works with the entire nervous system along with the gut, and there's a whole connection to the microbiome. 70% of your immune system's in the gut. And then also the brain gut axis. We can control, we can influence your moods with what you eat, and whether you eat or you don't eat. It's not just what you eat, it's when you eat. All of this in conjunction, I call this the rhythm of eating. That's another component of my program that is really aligned with major science that they've only been in the last 15 to 20 years on the circadian rhythm. It's very powerful stuff that makes a difference, and every little bit helps, right? When you can adjust, when you can apply some of these simple concepts to your life, and you're doing them from a mindset perspective, from a nutrition perspective, from your circadian rhythm perspective, from an exercise perspective, from a gratitude perspective, holistically, right? All of a sudden you start to see the life you've always dreamed of. You start to have more moments of joy. You start to feel more energy. You start to see the momentum. And that's what I love doing. I love helping people not just go on a diet and lose weight. I want to help people live the life they've always dreamed of. That's
I
really
love
the
it that you
purpose.
take one step at a time and connecting the dots because on my personal journey over a year ago, I was told, well, I now know breath work and everything, but like I was told to breathe 5 times a day just for a minute. So that's just 5 minutes out of my day in total. I thought that was the most impossible task over a year ago. I just, I was, and now I choose to do breath work and everything as a choice. Like before, I couldn't even fit in, and I mean, not 5 minutes at once. I could not fit in. It just seemed like such an, oh, and now I think this is ridiculous of me. But I swear to you, like a year and a half ago,
That's your
six,
inner critic. That's your
yes,
inner critic's talking. And it's
60,
your inner coach would tell you you can even make it smaller. But I'm so glad that you were able to fit it in. But for those people out there listening, this simplest, easiest thing to do, you only need to do 2 breaths. Take 2 sips of breath in through your nose. First, fill up your lungs and then expand your rib cage with the second sip and then blow out through your mouth. Nice long breath. Just do that twice and tell me how you feel. If people are here or when you see this, put it in the chat because what you're going to notice every time I do that, it stops the stress response. It's called a physiological sigh. And they use it in yoga, but they're also using this in research now. So you don't be hard on yourself. A minute is a long time. I start my clients just with that. And then we add breath work as we go along. That becomes longer and longer. And I do mindfulness meditations for them too. So I work with sensory command because getting out of your head is the only way to really bring the boil down when you're stressed. And I'm not sure how people, I don't know, are you doing any meditation right now?
no, honestly.
So the next step for you would be to
My
take
homework. Give me homework. I love homework.
the mindfulness work will get you to a point where the self-awareness and
Hmm.
self-acceptance will lead to more intention. It's just
Hmm.
being more present by
Hmm.
focusing on breath work first. And then I do sensory command, uses all the different senses, but we could just simply do um, focusing with your eyes or just listening to everything out there. If you listen to what's farthest away from you right now, you just spend 30 seconds listening. Maybe you can hear something outside or in another room, or you might hear, I hear a hum from the printer, and then bring it in closer to you. You can maybe hear the hum of your computer, or you might hear a light that's ticking or something. And then listen to your breath. You do 30 seconds of each. And as you do that, and you're just focusing on listening, get out of your head. You can't be in the power state and the primal state at the same time. And that's a
I,
very important, it's a self-awareness tool, but it's a very important exercise to get you to that point where you can actually get stressed free, stop the stress response quicker and quicker and quicker. Because it's not what happens to us, because we know we're going to be stressed. It's how
right.
you handle it, how quickly you can recover.
I think I haven't gotten. I like the meditation homework, and I think I haven't gotten to the meditation stage. I guess it's a good question for advice. Is um, I fall off the wagon a lot, so like I do have to bring myself back to doing breath work or going back to walking. I do my inner critic. I do have anxiety and stress issues, and my inner critic is raging, and I now have knowledge about it, but keeping it in check. So, I'll go for a week walking and then I fall off. I'll go for months walking and then I'll fall off. So I don't feel like I've got into the next level because I mean I don't fall far, but I'm just saying. So I guess my question to you is, I mean, is this common? And the falling off the bandwagon, thing, it's like the inner critic then always comes back, and somehow sneaks in And next thing you know is like, I'm doing everything I'm not supposed to be doing again, you know? So I guess
So
what do
part of that is accountability, like you said, but another part of this is we focus on outcomes a lot of times, right? We'll set a goal and then we check off the box, we did it. But what happens is we'll miss a day, and then you miss a day and you miss another day and you miss another, and before you know it, it's like I use this analogy and my clients like it, that if somebody comes and slashes one tire on your car, do you go and slash the other three? No, we
no,
just say, okay, let me change a tire and let me get back to driving.
right?
So part of it is stop being so hard on yourself. Self-awareness is not being self-critical or judgmental. Part of it is being more discerning and allowing yourself to be a fly in the wall and say, well, why do I say those things to myself? Where is the negative self-talk coming from? What identity is it attached to? And you don't have to go back to the time when it happened. It does help sometimes, but what's more important is just to be aware of it and then point out, hey, that's the inner critic, and become more aware of that inner critic. We spend 80% of our time dealing in our subconscious and very little in our conscious mind. And habits become unconscious, they become automatic. So part of this is not just about creating habits. That's outcome, right? We focus on outcome. We say, okay, what habits are going to get us to the outcome? Then we focus on systems. This is what I do with my clients. Once we have habits that they're working on, then we say, okay, what's the least common denominator of all these habits that you can create on a day in and day out basis? And I have a habit tracker for them to keep track of and a system that's going to help you do that. And then we work on identity. Identity is going to change things. For instance, if you are a writer, you have an identity of a writer. But what if you wanted to become a writer? You might say, okay, I'm going to write every day. Well, when you want to write every day, it's very different than saying to yourself, I am a writer. A writer has to write. It doesn't matter if you're not motivated. So part of this is about dealing with motivation. People think they need to be motivated, but think about somebody who's an athlete. Do you think they're motivated when it's pouring rain out or snowing out to get up and go to the gym or go for a run or workout? No, it's just their commitment. It's their why. So we need to work with awareness and then creating an intention that's connected to that why. And that why has to be so big and so hairy and so audacious that there is no way that you're going to let that inner critic sabotage you, because you're developing your inner coach every time you make a commitment and keep it. So that's the long story to that answer. I hope that helps.
No, it does. And I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge. I just think um, that, and I really mean to thank you, because a lot of times I'm very big when I bring, guests on, I want to promote you and everything, but it's like, what can you bring to the table and, motivate other people? And I just feel like I'm thanking you for giving so much knowledge. Like in this short period of time, you've informed me a lot. I didn't know how this was all going to go down. And I feel like I just got a free coaching session. And I have to say, I've heard about breath work, I've heard about gratitude, but I personally have learned a lot from this talk. But obviously you have so much more to offer. So how can we learn even more? And I want to thank you for giving, not just, I hate when people just do teasers and it's just a bunch of teasers, but you've really just given core knowledge. I feel like you've already started changing my mindset further by telling me some of the science behind it. So I know you have a lot more to offer. So how can other people, I will say, I know Evan's contact information is in the description, but what is the best way of contacting you or learning more from you?
So I'm on all the social media channels, from LinkedIn to TikTok to Facebook and Instagram. And I have a group, if anybody's really interested in learning more and getting access to the inner critics so they can identify them. I've got a really wonderful guide on all the different inner critics so you can pick them and and we can learn about them. But I also, that's in Living the B3 Way is the name of the group, Living the B3 Way to Wellness. I'm changing the name, but that's what it is right now. So go find that. Plus my proattitudes.com/follow has all of my links there. So you can find all of my social media. You can find even I have a free lifestyle challenge assessment, which is so comprehensive. It'll look at 7 key areas of your life, and it will distill it down to just what your top main issues are. And that will give me, you can jump on a free one-on-one with me and we can go over it. And I can help you identify, if you just focus on these 3 things or 3 to 5 things that it's going to distill out of 100 questions, it's going to give you a snowball effect that all the other ones will fall away as you work on those. And I also have I think there's a free download for my book. It's on my website at the bottom of the page, but I also sell this on Amazon. But you can download it for free on my website. So I give an awful lot away because I really my passion is to help people. I don't want people to struggle and suffer the way I did when I was younger. And even in business, I spent 20 years in corporate America in sales, management, leadership. So I truly understand business leaders and business owners. That inner critic is alive and well, and it's beating them up. It doesn't have to. And now that I've quieted my inner critic, I have a Darth, but you don't get rid of them. But you make them 6 inches tall instead of 6 feet tall. And now my Yoda is 6 feet tall instead of 6 inches tall. That's the idea. And then it's one day at a time. It's for the rest of your life. That's the thing. This lifestyle challenges are not an on and off type of thing. It's to say, how can I get 1% better every day? You're in competition with who you were yesterday. That's really the goal. And that's how you overcome when you have a day where you say, I don't feel like it, or I ate too much, or my inner critic was beating me up today. You just take a break and go, okay, let's get back on the path. One day closer. That's it. That's really how it works. And I'm the Sherpa that takes you up the mountain. That's really what coach is. I help you get there faster. But it's wonderful to be able to have this dialogue and be able to have this opportunity to talk to people. If they want to learn more, there are so many wonderful ways they can get a taste of me every day just by logging in, signing up for my LinkedIn newsletter that comes out once a month, or my posts every day. So there's
I subscribe. You're easy to find. You have also included for this Escape the Diet Trap.
That's my free training.
Yeah, so there is a link to that specific thing. So
that is something special that I just created, and I'm really excited about it because it explains to people that it's not about being on or off a diet. It's about, diets are transactional. If you're going to repeat the same thing you did yesterday and the day before and the day before, I call that mindless imitation. When you make a Xerox of something, remember Xeroxing, right? You make a copy of something and you copy the copy, you get distortion and you get fragments. And before you know it, you can't really read it anymore. We used to be in the gym, when we worked in the gym, we used to do that. And then we had to make it all over again. Where's the original? How about focusing on deeper meaning, focusing on being more intentional, focusing on, for every workout, how can I be a little bit more focused on the movement? Eating, how can I be more intentional? How can I focus on taste? How can I focus on my hunger, my fullness, my appetite? On attitude, how can I have this dialogue and identify and create this awareness with the inner critic? All of those things are going to lead every day to getting 1% better. And it's for the rest of your life.
Yes. Well,
that's the solution.
You've given, like I said, I'm very thankful that you can tell you're a very giving person. You've given a lot of knowledge. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested in learning more. And a lot of it is free because I see a lot of your stuff out there all the time. And I just love it. That's why I love the gratitude stuff. Come
on the Facebook group, the Live in the BC. We have a gratitude practice. And it's a 90-day commitment that you go in. There's no cost, but I give you 30 days to get in the habit. And then you start from there. And if you do it every day, you will see a huge difference. And all you have to do is just follow the prompts. They're very simple to do.
Well, it has been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing everything. And I know people are going to want to learn more. And thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your
Thanks for
knowledge.
having me. I appreciate it.